Ms. Valean, we are in a climate emergency. We need to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050 with intermediate milestones of at least a reduction of 55% by 2030. Despite this, the transport sector's carbon emissions are growing, thereby exacerbating the climate emergency. So, in regard to transport projects that are not climate-proofed, will you support them? I mean, in the recently adopted budget opinion, the TRAN committee reiterates that the provisional agreement on the regulation setting up the InvestEU programme contains a general provision, which applies to all transport-related financing, to ensure that projects that are inconsistent with the achievement of the climate objectives shall not be eligible for support, and that financing and investment operations shall be screened to determine if they have a climate impact, and if so, shall be subject to climate proofing. So do you agree that making these provisions apply to all types of EU transport financing is vital to achieving the 2050 carbon neutrality goal and all intermediate goals as well, particularly given the long investment horizon for much transport infrastructure?
Well, when we talk about the climate emissions, this is, as you can see, at the core of the policies we are going to develop. I'm going to present by the end of next year, if elected, a strategy on sustainable and smart mobility. And the question of financing the projects in this context is, of course, very important. There was a lot of debate on what does it mean and what is the right thing to do with support of financial support for projects, and what would be what would be needed to, in this respect, to encourage the uptake of only of green projects, if I understood your question rightfully. Reducing the emissions, if we look, for example, at the Connecting Europe facility, we can see that already a high percentage of the projects are already green projects, because we put nearly 80%, I think, of the envelope on green projects, 72% on rail, 6% on inland waterways. So we are somehow on the right path. Of course, we discussed about the possibility of having a green bank. So I think European Investment Bank, which has already criteria on awarding financing, will transform itself, or it will define in the future. And I think this is a work for the Commission as a whole, more commissioners, to try to identify exactly the criterias for sustainable projects to be financed. If this was your question, if I got it rightly.
Thank you. I note your reply that somehow we are on the right path, but the reality is that emissions are rising significantly and transport is an outlier. And to return to the topic of aviation, to which other MEPs referred to, you spoke in your written replies, or you wrote, that the single European sky will lead to a 10% reduction in emissions. But there will be a rebound effect, would you not agree, that there'll be more space for flights and therefore more flights. So it seems that there may be a significant increase in emissions. The reality is we need to fly less. So would you accept that the Commission needs to reduce, not increase the amount of flying that we do, in favour of more sustainable modes of transport? And my colleagues will talk about that. But will you commit to ensuring the polluter pays principle is applied to the aviation sector through measures such as a kerosene tax, as Franz Timmermans seems to suggest?
It's a pity this was not a question for a 2-minute answer at least, because it will take a lot. But of course, we have all the baskets of measures to decarbonize transport, efficiency for vehicles, deployment of alternative fuels. We have efficiency of the system itself. Then you talk about other modes. Rail, I'm stating clearly that rail, I think it's in the center of a sustainable transport, and we have to invest primarily in this and in multimodality. I want to put the goods, the freight on rail in my mandate as much as possible. When we talk about aviation, I think the economic growth needs more capacity, and this is market thing, and I'm encouraging the competitiveness of our industries, the movement of goods and of people. So I will not go in the direction of saying that we need less flies, but we need to be more efficient, more sustainable, and have a better efficient system on traffic management. On kerosene tax, I will just say that this is one of the possibilities, but it has to be part of a basket of market and non-market measures in order to decarbonize the sector. Thank you for allowing me to finish, Madam President.
Merci à vous.